Good morning. My name is Sam. I am an alcoholic and I'm also a son of recovery. Let's start out with the serenity prayer. Good and gracious God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Well, I am reading Living Sober and I'm on part 15, watching out for anger and resentments. This is a bit of a section, so bear with me. Anger has already been touched on in this booklet, but some rough experiences have convinced us that it is so important it deserves special attention for anyone wanting to get over a drinking problem. Hostility, resentment, anger, whatever word you use to describe this feeling, seems to have a close tie-up with intoxication and maybe even a deeper one with alcoholism. For instance, some scientists once asked a large number of alcoholic men why they got drunk and found an important answer was, so I can tell somebody off. In other words, they felt the power and freedom while drunk to express anger they could not comfortably display when sober. Someone has suggested there may be a subtle undetermined biochemical relationship between alcohol and the kind of body changes that accompany anger. One experimental study of alcoholics suggested that resentments may create in the blood of alcoholics a certain uncomfortable condition that is cleared up by a binge. A top psychologist has recently suggested that drinkers may enjoy the feelings of power over others that the influence of alcohol can bring. Facts Facts have been reported that the close correlation between drinking and assaults and homicides. It seems a large proportion of these in some countries happen when either the victim or the perpetrator or both is under the influence of alcohol. Rapes, domestic squabbles leading to divorce, child abuse, and armed robbery are also frequently laid at the doorstep of excessive drinking. Even those of us who have had no experience in such behavior can easily understand the kind of fierce rage which might lead some people to think of such violence when they are drunk enough, so we recognize the potential danger in anger. There seems little doubt that it is a natural state to occur in the human animal from time to time. Like fear, it may well have some survival value for all members of species Homo sapiens. Anger toward abstractions such as poverty, hunger, illness, and injustice have no doubt produced changes for the better in various cultures. But there is also no denying that mayhem and even verbal assaults committed in excesses of anger are deplorable and do damage to society as a whole, as well as to individuals. Therefore, many religions and philosophies urge us to get rid of anger in order to find a happier life. Yet, a great number of people are certain that bottling up anger is very bad for emotional health, that we should get our hostility out in some way, or it will poison our insides by turning inward toward ourselves, thus leading to deep depression. Anger, in all its aspects, is a universal human problem, but it poses a special threat to alcoholics. Our own anger can kill us. Recovered alcoholics almost unanimously agree that hostility, grudges, or resentments often make us want to drink, so we need to be vigilant against such feelings. We have found much more satisfying ways than drinking for dealing with them, but we'll get to those later. First, here's a look at some of the shapes and colors anger seems at times to arrive in: intolerance, snobbishness, tension, distrust, contempt, rigidity, sarcasm, anxiety, envy, cynicism, self pity, suspicion, hatred, discontent, malice, jealousy. Let's see if they have any more. Nope. Various AA members have, when sober, been able to trace all those feelings to some underlying anger. During our drinking days, many of us spent little time thinking such things out. We are more likely to brood about them or to overreact, especially after we heightened such feelings by taking another drink. Perhaps fear should be on that list too, because many of us believe anger is frequently an outgrowth of fear. We're not always sure what we're afraid of. Sometimes it is just a vague, generalized, nameless fear, and it can give rise to an equally generalized anger, which may suddenly focus on something or someone. Feelings of frustration might give birth to anger. Problem drinkers are not famous for a high tolerance level when faced with frustration, real or imaginary. A drink used to be our favorite solvent for such an indigestible emotion. Perhaps justifiable resentment is the trickiest of all to handle. It's the end product of righteous anger. After long cherishing, and if it is allowed to continue, it will slowly undermine our defense against taking a drink. Even if we actually have been treated shabbily or unjustly, resentment is a luxury that, as alcoholics, we cannot afford. For us, all anger is self destructive because it can lead us back to drinking. Learning to deal with resentments is discussed in more detail in the books Alcoholics Anonymous and 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, which I've previously read, and you can find those on my YouTube channel. We cannot pretend to be experts at understanding depth, depth psychology, so we have to concentrate on, first, not on searching for the causes of uncomfortable feelings of anger, but on coping with the feelings themselves, whether or not we think they are justified. We zero in on how to keep such feelings from fooling us into taking a drink. Interestingly, several of the methods already discussed for avoiding a drink have also worked splendidly for getting over the inner discomfort we suffer when angry. For instance, when we begin to simmer inside, it sometimes helps us a great deal to take a few bites of something good to eat or a glass of a non alcoholic beverage. It is also remarkably effective when we begin to get teed off at something to pick up the phone and talk about it to our sponsor or to other recovered alcoholics. And it pays to pause and consider whether or not we may be overtired. If so, found that some rest often dissipates rage. These are all wonderful things. I also, I don't know if they put this in here, but hydration. You know, when you are underhydrated, that can also, and I know it really affects me at times. So being tired, being hungry, or being thirsty can all lead us to get frustrated and irritated at other people. So um, repeatedly, simply pondering "live and let live" cools our temper. Or we may shift quickly to an activity that has nothing to do with the source of our anger, work it off with some lively exercise, lose it in listening to our favorite music. For many of us, contemplating the ideas of the Serenity Prayer blows away our hostility. Often, whatever we are mad about turns out to be something we cannot possibly control or change: traffic jams, the weather, long supermarket lines, for example. So, the sensible, mature thing to do is just accept it rather than boil inside fruitlessly and turn to alcohol, especially with things like that are out of your control, that we cannot possibly control a traffic jam. We cannot possibly control long lines at the supermarket. Um, and so getting angry about that and frustrated is just stupid. I mean, it is. We still do. Does it still happen? Yes. But it is just stupid. And think about that next time something like that is happening. Of course, at times, at times we are resentful for a circumstance in our life that can and should be changed. Maybe we should quit a job and get a better one, or get a divorce, or move the family to a different neighborhood. If so, such a decision needs to be made carefully, not in haste or anger, so we still should cool down first. Then, maybe we can give some calm, constructive thought to figuring out whether our resentment is directed at something we can change. To double check this, see the section on the Serenity Pair, page 18. Sometimes it isn't long resent it isn't long sometimes it isn't long resentment we must deal with, but a sudden consuming rage. The 24-hour plan, page 5, and the first things first, page 31, have helped many of us cope with such a rage, although we didn't see how they possibly could until we actually tried them and got surprisingly good results. Another effective remedy for anger is the as if idea. We decide how a mature, truly well balanced person would ideally handle a resentment like ours, then act as if we were that person. Have a go at it a few times. It works too. Fake it till you make it. And for many of us, so does the professional guidance of a good counselor of some sort, a psychiatrist or other physician or clergyman. We can also find an outlet in harmless physical action, the exercise already mentioned, deep breathing, a hot soak, and in private, pounding a chair or a cushion and yelling have all relieved anger for lots of people. Simply repressing, glossing over, or damming up anger rarely seems advisable. Instead, we try to learn not to act on it, but to do something about it. And if we don't, we increase enormously our chances of drinking. As laymen, who know simply our own experience. We recovered alcoholics have no laboratory knowledge or scientific theories about these matters, but few people have ever had a hangover could forget how unreasonably irritable it makes you feel. Sometimes we took it out on family members, fellow workers, friends, or strangers who certainly had not earned our displeasure. That tendency can hang around a while after we start staying sober. And the way wraths of stale smoke do in close-up bathroom, the way wraths of stale smoke do in a closed-up bar room, reminding us of drinking days until we do a good mental house cleaning. So that is watching out for anger and resentments. It's hard. It's really hard, but I mean the suggestions in here are great. Something I make sure I do every day is I get outside and walk for an hour, at least over an hour usually. But I do physical exercise because it helps me stay calm and process through what I got to do in the day or what I did the day before or any of that. Um, but anger comes and it sucks, and it's all about self control and us gaining self control again, because we gave it up when we were alcoholics, and so it's getting it back and being in control of ourselves is actually a really wonderful thing. So, with that, here's a great one. Guide me. Thank you, higher power, for this beautiful day, for strength, for health. Help me to live this day for you. Place in my past some way to serve others. Help me to know that no other walks in my shoes, that there is something that only I can do today. Guide my thoughts and deeds that I may feel your presence today and in all the tomorrows. And with that, I just ask you if you have any thoughts, questions, or comments, please leave them. And as always, I hope you have a blessed day. Thank you.